Ever felt invisible in your own relationship? Chloe's story is about seeking validation in a toxic bond, only to find emptiness. Witness her heartbreaking realization in a coffee shop as a promotion is met with indifference. Learn how Chloe breaks free, discovering self-worth and the courage to redefine her happiness, all without needing anyone's approval. Chloe sat alone at the corner table of the bustling coffee shop, the familiar hum doing little to calm the anxious flutter inside her chest. It was her usual spot by the window where the morning light spilled in, casting soft shadows across the worn wooden table. She glanced down at her coffee, now lukewarm, and stirred it slowly. The cold half of the coffee mirrored how she felt inside, half full yet unmistakably bitter. Today was supposed to be different. Chloe had good news. After months of long nights and careful effort, she had earned a modest promotion at work. It wasn't world-changing, but for her it was validation, a proof of her worth, tangible and shining. She had rehearsed how she would tell Mark, her boyfriend, who rarely gave her the attention she craved. She bit her lip and checked her watch for the third time in as many minutes. Mark was 20 minutes late. She knew he would come distracted, probably scrolling through his phone, as if the world and their relationship were less important than whatever screen lit up his face. But still, she hoped. When he finally slid into the seat opposite her, his eyes didn't meet hers. He was already absorbed in the glowing rectangle in his hands. "Hey," Chloe said tentatively, her heart pounding. Mark glanced up briefly, a tired smile flashing. "Hey!" Then back to the phone. Chloe's throat tightened. She swallowed and said, "I wanted to tell you something. I got a promotion." Mark grunted, so cool without looking up. In traffic was a nightmare. The words hit her worse than she expected. She had hoped for just a flicker of pride, maybe a smile or a question. Instead, she got indifferent grunts and complaints about his own troubles. She forced a smile and pushed her disappointment down deep, burying it under layers of practiced composure. Trying to salvage the moment, Chloe shared a funny story about an awkward lunch encounter with a co-worker, hoping to spark some connection. Mark didn't look up. "Uh-huh," he muttered. The noise of the cafe faded into a dull roar around her as Chloe's chest tightened with a familiar squeeze of anxiety and loneliness. She felt like she was shouting into a void, begging for scraps of attention from someone who had none to give. It wasn't just Mark's indifference that hurt, it was the way she had made his approval her lifeline, her measure of worth. She realized then that the anxiety wasn't caused by the problems in their relationship, it came from her desperate attempt to pretend those problems didn't exist. Chloe stopped talking. The silence between them stretched, heavy and unforgiving. Mark kept scrolling, unmoved. "I have to go," Chloe said softly, her voice almost a whisper. Mark didn't look up. As she stood and gathered her things, Chloe felt the terrifying weight of emptiness settle inside her. But this emptiness was different. It was not the cramped, suffocating space filled with unmet expectations and clinging hopes. It was a clean, quiet void, a space finally freed from the static of needing to be seen through someone else's eye. Stepping out into the crisp morning air, Chloe inhaled deeply. The cold half of the coffee was left behind on that table, but inside her grew a new warmth, the beginning of learning to see herself and to value herself without needing anyone else to do it for her. The road ahead was uncertain and scary, but for the first time in a long while, Chloe felt quietly hopeful.
Chloe decided to take a different route to work, one she hadn't explored before. The streets were lined with trees just beginning to bloom, their delicate blossoms hinting at the promise of spring. She noticed a small park nestled between the buildings, a green oasis in the urban landscape. A woman sat on a bench, reading a book, sunlight dappling through the leaves above. On impulse, Chloe entered the park, drawn by the quiet serenity. She sat on an empty bench nearby, closing her eyes and breathing deeply. The gentle breeze rustled the leaves, and the sounds of the city seemed to fade away. For a moment, she felt a sense of calm she hadn't experienced in a long time. As she sat there, she remembered the promotion. A genuine smile touched her lips, not the forced, strained smile she had offered Mark, but a real, heartfelt expression of pride. She pulled out her phone and texted her best friend Sarah, sharing the news. Sarah's enthusiastic reply filled her with warmth and support. Chloe realised that her worth wasn't determined by Mark's indifference or anyone else's approval. It was something she carried within herself. She decided to celebrate her achievement by treating herself to a delicious lunch at a new restaurant she'd been wanting to try. As she walked, she noticed a young woman struggling with a heavy bag. Without hesitation, Chloe offered to help. The young woman's grateful smile was all the reward Chloe needed. Acts of kindness, she realised, were a source of joy and validation that came from within. Lunch was delicious, and as Chloe savoured each bite, she felt a sense of contentment she hadn't known was possible. She was free, finally, from the need for external validation. As she left the restaurant, Chloe looked up at the sky, now a brilliant blue. The cold half of the coffee was a distant memory, replaced by the warmth of self-acceptance and the promise of a brighter future.